Hello, it's Tom Donald from the London Contemporary School of Piano, and today I'm going to show you 3 ways to play Amazing Grace. One of the best things about my job is I get to talk about chords. Chords and chords. There's really, to me, nothing much more satisfying in the world than sitting down on the piano and playing combinations of beautiful chords to bring songs to life. And today we're going to explore chords through the lens of this classic song and look at 3 different ways we can explore a song with chords. We're going to start with basic and easy and I guess hymnal, you could say. A very simple 3-chorded way you could play this song. Then we're going to add a bit of spice, and then we're going to add a lot of spice. So let's go on this journey together. And if you're a fan of our work at the London Contemporary School of Piano, head on over to our site, contemporaryschoolofpiano.com, to get the free resources kit, which has these 3 different versions of Amazing Grace that you can practice to. Okay, so this is really important. We often get stuck into playing things in a complicated way when we should actually look at simple ways of playing songs as well. Because when you play a song in a really simple way, you get a very pure rendering of the tune and the feel of the song. So I'm going to play Amazing Grace with just 3 chords, C, F, and G. And by doing that, I really get to understand the structure of the melody and the tune. So let's do it. Now it's really important to get tunes and reduce it down to its simple 3-chord element. And the music theory behind this is really simple, but really important for your ear training. We've got chords 1, 4, and 5. And the way that chords 1, 4, and 5 work together in this tune is really important. It gives us an idea of the structure and the feel of the song. 1 moves to 4, back to 1. The 4's got that warmer tone to it. Back to 1 again. 5, it sounds brighter, it's the dominant chord, chord 5, which leads us back to 1. Chord 4, 1, 5, and then what we call a plagal cadence. It's a hymnal ending to a song. And lots of hymns do this. Chord 4, resolving back to chord 1. And a nice little clever trick is that we can maintain that C in the bass over the chord 4. So it's like a 4 in the right hand and 1 in the left hand. And then it ends. Amen. And that's a plagal cadence. Chord 4, resolving back to 1. Really important for your ear training. If your ear can pick out 1, 4, and 5, you can learn a whole bunch of simple songs by ear. So it's really important to reduce a song down to its critical 3 chords. Now, let's use that as a template. And that's the first version of Amazing Grace I played today. And by the way, get our resources kit from our website, because it will have these 3 versions ready for you to compare the chords to. We now go to the second version, where we're going to add a little bit of spice. So we have some room to add some spice to the music now. So for instance, if we looked at the first 4 bars of the song, we had this. We had 2 bars of the C major, then the F major, back to the C major. So to expand on that a little bit, let's add a 7th chord, something like this. That C7 over the E leads us to the F beautifully. And then we go a C major over a G, so it's not so resolved, and that lets us move to the next place. So let's compare those two versions. We had the first version, which was this. And the second version, which is this. That C over the G means, ooh, what's going to happen next? It doesn't totally resolve the music now. Now, instead of now going back to the C and doing this, we're going to substitute that C major with something else. We're going to go to the relative minor, the A minor, and then after the A minor, we're going to add a passing chord, a D7. This is called a secondary dominant, but it's just a really nice sounding chord in this case. It's up a perfect fourth from that A minor to the D7, and then we can go to the G, like that, and it sounds like this. But I'm not totally satisfied with that still yet. I want to add a bit more decoration. I don't just want to land on the chord 5 as quickly as I did in the first version of the piece I played. I want to procrastinate getting to that chord 5. So a really nice way to procrastinate is I'm going to play a chord 4 in my right hand, and I'm going to have the 5 in the left hand. F over the G, and then to the 5. So let's put all of that together. I get this. So where do I go next? Well, I could just go back to that C major, like I did in the first version, but no, this is a spicier version. So I'm going to do something else. The audience, the listener, is almost expecting to hear that C major, that chord 1. That's what they're expecting to hear, but I want to create a little bit of a musical deception here, which will sound really beautiful. Instead of going to the chord 1, I'm going to have the 1 in the left hand, the C, but I'm going to have a totally different chord in the right hand. I'm going to have a G minor. And it just creates a slightly unresolved but beautiful warm feel to it. And that G minor will lead me to a C9. Or it could be a C7. So let's try all of that now, and let's hear how that deception just creates a bit more color to the chord progression. That worked really well, didn't it? I'm feeling a bit naughty now though. I want to add a bit more color to that now. Not just go from the F major to the C major over the G. I'm going to add a passing diminished chord. And a really good passing diminished chord to add here would be an F sharp diminished, up a semitone from the F. Let me do that again. What a great sound that is. Oh yeah, nothing like a diminished chord to put the fear of God into people. But you know, let's be honest, it's a show tune when you add diminished chords. They sort of have they just don't sound like the devil's chord. You know, back in the 1600s, they used to call it the devil's chord, you know, it was a bit like, you know, a diminished chord. But now it's almost like bluesy, it's soulful, it's joyful. And it's got such a beautiful feel in these hymns to just add extra diminished chords. So yeah, wherever you can, try and throw in a diminished chord. It's always a lot of fun. And then I'm going to do that relative minor thing again for the last phrase. And then the plagal cadence at the end. Okay, so I'm going to play version 1 And then I'm going to go into version 2, and you can compare both of them together. And of course, you've got the lead sheets we have of this in our free resources kit on our website, contemporaryschoolofpiano.com. So be sure to check that out so you can support yourself. You can practice this with your own hands and really learn these chords, get them under your fingers. Okay, so version 1 with just 3 chords, and then I'm going to go to version 2. Version 2. So you can really hear how that opens up the chord structure just by adding those extra chords in the middle, those passing chords, those bass notes, those extra 7th chords, the deceptive G minor over the C. When we were expecting to hear the C, we got the C in the end, but it was in the form of a C7 in the next bar, leading us back to the F, diminished passing chords, all that jazz. So now for a third version of Amazing Grace, we're going to add more caution to the wind. We're going to just throw in more chords. We're going to add expansions on the chords that we've already added to the music, so it's even richer. And there's really no ends to how far you can go. I'm not even giving you a particularly overly complex rendering of the tune compared to some other versions of the song out there. But I'm just giving you some really satisfying tricks that just sound really great. And they're really, really enjoyable. And of course, that brings the age-old question. If it's more complex, does it necessarily make the music better? Actually, maybe the first version with the 3 chords is the best. It's got that cleaner sound to it. Maybe it's the mood that we're in. You know, all of this is very subjective. Music is very subjective. And it's always good to have these different ways of playing a song because you might feel like you have different ways you'd like to express yourself. So, anyway, we're going to add way more chords now. We're going to just dial it up a bit more for this final version of the song, and you can get it from our resources kit if you want to practice it. So we'll start with the C. Now I've got the C7, but rather than just going to the F major, I want to add a tritone substitution before that. What is a tritone substitution? Well, I'm going to shoot up a semitone above that F major chord here. We're going to go up a semitone from that, and we're going to play an F sharp 7. Whoa, sort of sounds way out there, doesn't it? But we're going to flatten the 5th note of the chord, so it's got a C in it. So it's an F sharp 7 with a flattened 5th. And this is the voicing I'm using for it right now, but you could use other voicings. That's what it is as a root chord. So that's the chord. Notice how well that's going to melt into an F major 7. Woo, look at that. I'm going to do it a few times. I'm not using any particularly fancy voicing for it either. I'm just playing it in root position at this point, but that's the sequence. So let me throw it into Amazing Grace. I'll do that again. I'll just get that melody worked in a bit better. The melody's got a D in it, so I'm adding a D. I'm adding a D to that tritone substitution, that F sharp 7 with the flattened 5th. I said I was going to dial it up. Now I'm going to add another diminished passing chord. So let's do that first line of that. There's a lot going on there. Let's do that one more time for fun. Now, that transition between the C over the G to the A minor, I'm going to make that chromatic by putting a passing note there in the bass. And that turns, I'm going to turn my C major chord into a C augmented by lifting the fifth note. So a C augmented with a G sharp in the bass, which by the way is the same as a G sharp augmented when you invert it. That's going to lead me nicely to that A minor 7. So let's try all of that now. So what did I do there? I went to the A minor 7, but instead of just going straight to the D7 or the D9 there, I added a chord before that. I played a C major 7 with a D in the bass, and then went to a D13 with this voicing. Just by dropping that middle note from the C major 7 to an F sharp, I've got the D in the bass, that turns it into a D13. And then, rather than just having the F over the G, this time I made it an F7 over a G, an F major 7 over a G, to another G13. So let's put all of that together, see how that works. Another tritone substitution, another diminished passing chord, and I've added a bit of a walk down at the end. So I really recycled a lot of that material in the second half because it was all there, ready to go again. The melody is relatively repetitive in this song. I still kept that deception G minor over the C. Added another tritone substitution there. Passing diminished chord. A minor 7, D7, F over G. But instead of just going to the F over the C and resolving to the C, that plagal cadence we spoke about earlier in today's tutorial, the 4 to the 1, I've added a bit of a walk down. Let me do the walk down nice and slowly. It's this, F major, C in first inversion, E flat diminished, D minor 7, C major. So it's a really nice, elegant walk down. The use of inversions means that it's quite a smooth walk down of chords. So it just really adds a spice to that cadence at the end of the song. Okay, so now I'm going to do all 3 versions of the song, and then I might improvise a little bit at the end. And I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you want to practice these chords, get on over to our website, contemporaryschoolofpiano.com, and get the free resources kit, and I hope it will help you. And, well, let me play the 3 versions of Amazing Grace. Wish me luck. See you soon.